What is up, everybody? Coming to you today with the Anthony Joshua versus Kubrat Pulev breakdown video. These two guys will collide Saturday, December 12th on DAZN. This is a mandatory title fight, as Pulev has been the IBF's mandatory #1 contender for a couple years now, almost 2 years. Anthony Joshua is a unified heavyweight champion. A title he regained last year when he defeated Andy Ruiz in their rematch, following Ruiz's major upset 7th round TKO in June of last year, 2019. They fought 6 months later. Anthony Joshua ran circles around Ruiz, cleanly outboxed him to a one-sided shutout 12-round unanimous decision to regain his unified heavyweight title. Now, Kubrat Pulev, the former world title challenger, he hasn't fought since November of last year when he defeated little-known Rydell Booker in a fight I was actually at in Fresno, California by a 10-round unanimous decision. He was just staying busy in this one. That's what he did in 2019, because he became the mandatory #1 contender in 2018 with a clean one-sided 12-round unanimous decision over, I believe it was Huey Fury, Tyson Fury's cousin. Cleanly outboxed him and became the mandatory #1 contender for the IBF world title. So finally, Pulev is getting his opportunity. This is a fight he almost had, I think it might have been 3 years ago. He almost had this fight. It was a mandatory fight too. He was a mandatory challenger, and he ended up having to pull out with an injury, and I think Joshua fought Carlos Takam instead. So Pulev, who hasn't fought for a world title since, I want to say it was 2014 when he fought Klitschko, and he got destroyed in that fight. He had a couple small moments, but he couldn't take Klitschko's power. I think he got put down 4 times and knocked out in 5 rounds. So I believe he's 38, 39 years old heading into this fight. So, coming in the big underdog, as Anthony Joshua is the heavy favorite and looking on to bigger things. So let's jump into each fighter and break it down, break this fight down. Gonna have 5 questions on each fighter. Those questions are: what do they need to do to win the fight? Can they win by knockout? Can they win by decision? What will it do for them in boxing if they win? And what will it do for them in boxing if they lose? And then after all that, on both sides, I will discuss who I think is going to win the fight and why. So let's jump into the favorite going in, the unified heavyweight champion, the 2-time unified heavyweight champion, Anthony Joshua of the United Kingdom. So Joshua, as we said, is coming off the win over Andy Ruiz last year. It's going to be a little over a year in between fights, but that's because of COVID. What does he need to do to defeat Kubrat Pulev? Well, I think Joshua needs to, I don't think he needs to panic or worry, because Pulev's been out of the ring just as much as he has. Pulev hasn't fought the competition that Joshua has fought the last couple years. So I think Joshua doesn't have to worry about running out of gas heading into the late rounds unless he's getting beat down. But I think Joshua just needs to not walk into anything. He needs to box, set his punches up with his jab, use his talent and his natural ability, and set those punches up. He cannot overlook Kubrat Pulev. Pulev, might be a big underdog, but Pulev is a veteran, and he's been in and fought some pretty good heavyweights, and he's beaten a couple of them. So Pulev is not a complete pushover. And Joshua, heading into this fight, doesn't need to make the mistake he made against Andy Ruiz by overlooking him. And then once he hurts him, don't leave himself wide open to get caught with something. Pulev has decent power, not great power, but decent power. And, he's also a very good boxer who, if he lands it, if he lands a perfectly timed shot, might be able to hurt Joshua. And we saw what happened against Andy Ruiz last year when that happened. So, I think Joshua just needs to fight smart, and box and set up his punches and let if the knockout's available, which I believe it probably will be, then take advantage of it when it's there. But use that height, use that reach, and really, punish Kubrat Pulev, break him down, and go for the knockout when it's available. So that's what I think Joshua needs to do to win this fight. Now, do I think Anthony Joshua can beat Kubrat Pulev by a knockout? I absolutely do. I think Joshua's got great power, and I think, he hasn't knocked the guy out since, I think it's been a couple years since he's knocked somebody out. I want to say, it might have been 2.5 years. No, it's been since he beat Alexander Povetkin in 2018 since he knocked somebody out. So I think Joshua is hungry for a knockout. I think he wants to have a big show and a big finish here, because it's COVID, but also to set up the Super Showdown next year with Tyson Fury, because we know that fight's on the table. So I think Joshua definitely can knock him out. I think he's going to go for a knockout, so yeah, I definitely think he can win by knockout. Excuse me. Can Anthony Joshua beat Kubrat Pulev by a decision? Absolutely. I mean, if he, I'm not sure if it's going to go to a decision, but I absolutely think he can completely outbox him and outwork him and win a decision either way. So yeah, definitely could win this fight by decision. What is it going to do for Anthony Joshua if he beats Kubrat Pulev? Well, it's going to, I don't think anybody's going to be surprised if he beats Kubrat Pulev, because he should beat him. But what it's going to do is it's going to keep him in line for those big showdowns with Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury. He's going to be able to stay in the big three and keep himself circulating and going into those big fights. Because, if he loses this fight to Pulev, we'll talk about if he loses, but a win is going to just keep him in line for all those. It's going to keep him in the big fights. It's going to keep him one of the big three. And, a win's going to be big for him in terms of his stature. So, in his place in the heavyweight division. So, a win's going to mean a lot. Not a lot of fans are going to care if he wins, but, the rewards from winning, beyond this fight are big. So, a win is huge for Anthony Joshua here. What is it going to mean for Anthony Joshua if he loses this fight? It's really, it depends on how he loses. But I think any kind of a loss to Kubrat Pulev is going to really, really kill Anthony Joshua, even if he gets a rematch. I think it's going to hurt him badly, especially if he were to get knocked out. If he gets knocked out, it's going to be a while before he can get back into the mix and really be taken seriously in the big three of the heavyweight division. Between him, Wilder, and Fury. He cannot lose this fight to Kubrat Pulev. That would be devastating to his career. And it would hurt boxing because, Pulev's a 38, 39-year-old fighter, and he doesn't have a big name. Anthony Joshua is a younger fighter, big name, has beaten every guy he's ever fought. He's one of the big, tall guys in the division, so a lot of people are looking forward to these three going at it whenever they do fight. You saw what Wilder and Fury did, their first two fights. They might be having a third one. But Joshua wants to get one or both of those guys in the ring at some point, and, he cannot lose. He cannot lose this fight to Kubrat Pulev. It would be just, horrific for his career. So, now let's jump over to the underdog, Kubrat Pulev, and ask the same 5 questions. First, what does Kubrat Pulev need to do to beat Anthony Joshua? He needs to, what I always say about the underdogs coming in, but especially when you're this big of an underdog, he needs to fight the perfect fight. And what does he do to do that? Pulev, his strength is he's a very skilled boxer. He is. He can box. He's got a good jab, and he can hit from angles. What he needs to do, I think he needs to have Anthony Joshua come to him. I don't think he needs to stand in the middle of the ring with Joshua, and I don't think he needs to try to come at Joshua. I think he needs to make Joshua the aggressor, and I think he needs to be the counterpuncher. Now, when Joshua jumps on the inside and tries to land something big, he needs to make Joshua pay. He needs to hit him with something sharp and precise, much the way Andy Ruiz did. Andy Ruiz put his punches together even when he was hurt, and that's what led to the knockout and the upset of Anthony Joshua in June of last year. So Pulev needs to try, even though they're different styles, he needs to try to implore that, because he's a smaller man, you know, in terms of height, but he does have good timing. So he needs to use that timing. And you know what? You look at some of the things that he did, even though it was 5-6 years ago against Vladimir Klitschko. Like I said, he had some moments against Klitschko, even though he got put down 3-4 times and knocked out in the 5th round. He did land some good timed punches. So if he can land a money punch, he's not a huge power puncher, but he has decent power. If he can land a good punch on Anthony Joshua and hurt him, or at least affect him, he might be able to pull this one out. So that's what he needs to do. He needs a box, and his timing needs to be there, and he needs to land something big on Anthony Joshua, possibly hurt him, maybe take him into deep waters. His conditioning needs to be on point, just in case he can take him to the deep waters and he can wear him down and drown him. But he's got to be in great shape. So that's what he needs to do to win the fight. Now, can Kubrat Pulev win this fight by knockout? You know, anything is possible. When you're a heavyweight, anything is possible. Yeah, I mean, he could. And yeah, like I said, he's got good timing. He could catch Joshua coming in out of nowhere and hurt him, and he could finish him. He could. You know, the percentages of that happening, I'd say they're, you know, definitely less, you know, not great, but it definitely could happen. He could land a big punch, and that could be all she wrote for Anthony Joshua. Joshua has been hurt. He's been hurt by Klitschko. He's been hurt by Dillian White. He's been hurt by Andy Ruiz. So, you know, and he's hittable. So, yeah, it could happen. Can Pulev win by decision? It's going to be hard for him to win by decision. I think Joshua would really have to be worn out, and Pulev would just, and holding on, and Pulev would have to really, really box like the perfect fight and beat him to the punch. Joshua being so big, the younger, the faster, the stronger guy, I think it'd be really hard for Pulev to win a decision. So if this fight were to go to the scorecards, it would be because Joshua didn't put him away, not because, in my opinion, not because Pulev could really outbox Joshua over 12 rounds. I don't see that happening. So I'm going to say no. I don't think he can win a decision against Anthony Joshua. All right. What is it going to mean for Pulev in boxing if he upsets Anthony Joshua? If he pulls off the upset over Anthony Joshua, that's going to be, you know, he's going to go down in history. That's going to be a huge upset, and he's going to be the unified heavyweight champion for his first time. It's going to make his career, and no matter what happens next, it's going to make his career. So it's going to be huge for Kubrat Pulev. Huge. What is he going to do for boxing? I said earlier, if Joshua loses this fight, it's going to hurt boxing. You know, it's going to be big for Pulev, but it's going to hurt boxing. It's going to hurt the best division in boxing, which is the heavyweights, in terms of the most popular. You know, that's still the division people want to see most, even though the welterweights is the best division in boxing in terms of talent and deep-wise, top to bottom. But the heavyweight division, I mean, the heavyweight title, there's nothing bigger than that. So Pulev, you know, it's going to mean a lot to him, but it will hurt boxing if Pulev, at 38, 39 years old, upsets one of the biggest stars in boxing in Joshua. What is it going to mean for Pulev and for boxing if he loses the fight? It's really not going to, of course, it's probably going to end Pulev's career, depending on how he loses. If Pulev fights his ass off and barely loses a decision or gets stopped late in a firefight or something like that, and he's really in the fight, he might continue on, make another run, see what happens. But if Pulev goes and gets destroyed, that's probably it for him. He's probably done. I think it would take forever for him to get back in line for another world title. And at 38, 39 years old, I mean, is it realistic that he could really even put himself back in the mix at any point, I don't see it. So I think if he gets his ass whipped by Anthony Joshua, he's probably done. He's probably done. What is that going to mean for boxing if he loses? I mean, it's overall, it's going to be good because of the future for Anthony Joshua. So it would be good. It would be better for boxing if Pulev loses, but you know, it's really not going to mean much overall in terms of the moment because nobody really knows Kubrat Pulev. You know, he's not a big, huge name. So that's where that is. Now, what do I think is going to happen? Who's going to win this fight? Anthony Joshua and Kubrat Pulev. You know, for me, there's really no doubt. It's Anthony Joshua. Joshua should win this fight. He should win by knockout. I think it could be very similar to what Klitschko did to Pulev, knocking him out in just a few rounds, 4 or 5 rounds. He could knock him out earlier than that. He could knock him out a few rounds later. I think the fight could end anywhere from round 1 to round 7 or 8. I don't see it going past that. I would be disappointed in Anthony Joshua if it goes past 7 or 8 rounds. I mean, because it really shouldn't. Kubrat Pulev's an older fighter. The speed isn't there. You know, he's there to be hit. He's not a big-time mover. He can box and he can move, but against the guy of Anthony Joshua's skill, size, strength, I'm not seeing it. So I think Anthony Joshua is gonna get a big win here to set himself up for possibly Tyson Fury next year. But if Fury ends up having to fight Deontay Wilder, then a big fight with Alexander Usyk, the former undisputed champion, is in line and next. So he's going to have a big fight either way. He's either going to have a super fight with Anthony Joshua or a big fight against Alexander Usyk, who's a big pound-for-pound name right now. So, you know, Joshua really needs this win. I think he's hungry. I think he's going to go get it. And I think Kubrat Pulev's chances of pulling off the upset are slim to none. So that's it. That's the breakdown of Anthony Joshua and Kubrat Pulev Unified Heavyweight Championship, December 12th on DAZN. You don't want to miss this, guys. I know it doesn't seem like a big fight, but there are 12 fighters in boxing right now. I officially have 12 that are must-see fighters that you have to watch every time they fight. And that's mandatory. You have to watch these guys. And Anthony Joshua is one of them. He is one of the 3 heavyweights you have to see every time he fights, you know, and one of the 12 best boxers in the world in terms of star power, pound-for-pound type rankings, and, you know, in terms of talent. Anthony Joshua is one of those guys. Watch him December 12th against Kubrat Pulev for the Unified Heavyweight title on DAZN. Should be good. Hope you guys enjoyed this. True Boxing. You've been hit with the truth.